Way too deep. They're that deep in my business. If this thing was my business, that would be the government in my business. And in your business. It's like I said, though, I'm not opposed to paying taxes. I'm not one of those fucking people. I get that taxes are necessary for a society. And they are. Anybody that says different has never had a house fire or an ambulance ride. Even the cops are necessary. And I'm not a huge fan of the cops, but they are necessary. It's the bad ones that give all of them a bad name, just like, you know, anybody, I guess, any profession. It's funny how we treat cops, though. You know, if you go out and have a bad experience at a restaurant, right? You got a shitty waiter, you had a bad meal, the manager didn't care. You know, you don't paint every restaurant with that brush, right? At least I don't. But it's like if somebody has a bad experience with a cop, they paint all cops with that brush. You ever notice that? Well, I hate cops, man. I remember this one time in Memphis in 1996. This fucking cop, you know, totally fucked with me. And it's like, okay. So that means that some cop that's in Memphis today, or in Anchorage, Alaska, or Hartford, Connecticut, sucks because some cop messed with you in another city 30 years ago? And people will say, yeah, they all suck. And it's like, okay. I don't know. What do you tell people like that? But I never understood that mentality of paint them all with the same brush. You know, by that rationale, people would be fine being racist then too, I guess, right? Because, you know, you're painting everybody with the same brush. Okay, so we're moving along here. We've got our little entity here. Oh, we forgot some boulders. Some rocks right here. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not saying all cops are cool. I'm sure there's plenty that abuse their authority. I've seen it. I've seen like the dash cam videos, you know, of cops abusing their authority, and unfortunately, because of what I just talked about when it comes to people's dislike for police this day and age, they do paint all the cops with the same brush. And that sucks. That sucks for the few cops out there that are good. Is that they're getting painted with that brush too. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I wouldn't want to be a cop in this day and age. Fuck no. Kidding me? If you don't get sued for something you did or said or perceived did it said, you know, some nut job's gonna come up and blow you away while you're at a stop sign one day. Or at a fucking wherever, you know. That shit happens, man. I wouldn't want to be one. Fuck no. Fuck no. I'd rather be an ice cream man or something, or a fucking greeter at Walmart than be a cop. Everybody hates your guts all the, you know, it's just like, nope. No, thank you. Alright, so we'll start drawing some details on this creature. Just in case that's not dry yet. Yeah, and then it's like, you know, if you're a cop, you know, I don't think it's probably bad everywhere. You know, I live in a small town and we got our cops. And, you know, they've had scandals and shit. Just like anything else, I guess. But it's like, are they real? I don't know. I don't put too much effort into thinking about it, honestly, because I have to live in this town. And I know how people are, so I just don't really think about it. I stay out of their way. I can tell you this much, I get pulled over here and there. I have a CPL, so the first thing I have to do when I get pulled over is tell people, or tell the cop, hey, I got a, you know, firearm on me, and before we initiate conversation, I need to make you aware of that. And they're always like, oh, thanks for telling me, you know, you have a tail light out or whatever the fuck. And I had a tail light out last winter, or I'm sorry, in the spring of 25, and I got pulled over like every day. I work at a liquor store at night, and I got pulled over like every day, getting off work at 11, you know, 12 o'clock or something. I get pulled over by the state, by the sheriff, by both towns, you know, I gotta drive through the town I'm working into the town I'm going to. You know, that's like fucking every day I got pulled over by somebody. I was just like, Jesus Christ. You know, so I got very good at having to practice saying that whole, no, I have a firearm on me, and they were usually pretty cool about it. You know, I never got one person that was like, oh God, you have a firearm on you? Give it up. So, I mean, I'll say that much at least. They were cool on that level. Not a single one was like, oh, give it to me. Because that would have put me in a tricky spot. Because I would have been like, no. You know, I respect the cops and all that shit, but I'm not going to let you walk on my rights either. Especially over a fucking taillight. You know? Ain't going to get me over a taillight. But they tried. The only one that ever really gave me any grief was the state cop, go figure. You know, he pulled me over, I was in kind of a bad mood, and gave him a little grief. And he searched my car, or not searched my car, but, you know, he wanted to search it. He said, oh, it smells like weed around here. I said, really? Are we playing this fucking game? And I said, look, dude, if you want to search my car and waste all of our times, be my guest. And he just looked at me and was like, oh, well, I guess have a good day, good night, I mean. But it's like, you ain't searching my car over a fucking taillight. You ain't gonna search my car telling me, oh, it smells like weed. I don't have any weed. You know, give me a fucking, you know, but they'll try to do that. And they gauge your response. They gauge how you respond. If you're like, oh, no, I just said, fuck you. If you want to waste our time, be my guest. And he didn't. I guess he didn't want to waste his time. I didn't have any, you know, I'm not driving around with weed and a gun at the same time. Fucking idiot. And I just told the fucking guy what was up. And that's all I had to do. And I wasn't disrespectful about it. I just said, if you want to waste time, both of our time, then be my guest. And he didn't. So there we go. And that was good. And that was a good way to do it. You know, it wasn't disrespectful, but I was stern. You know, I told him, like, you know, basically that I wasn't putting up with that. And he knew. He knew what was up. Let me go on my way. And that's all you gotta do, people. That's all you need to do when you're pulled over by the cops and they're attempting to stop on your rights. Just tell them, piss off. Or call their bluff. You know, call their bluff. They're trying to fuck with you. You know, if they pull you over for something like a tail light, and they've gotten your information, and they've brought back your information, and, you know, you guys have established that nobody's drunk and nobody's high, and that your tail light was out, and you'll get it fixed, and blah, blah, blah. You know, if they start saying, oh, what do you got in the car, you know, mind if it's, you know, no. You're fishing, you know, at this point, you're trying to come up with another reason. You know, your reason to pull me over was my taillight was bad, not because, you know, you think I have weed in my car or whatever the fuck. You know, and if you just get stern with them a little bit. It helped that I had my GoPro too. You know, I never drive, well, I try to not drive without my GoPro on my dashboard so they can see everything going on. And I've noticed that police when they pull you over, if they see a GoPro or a dash cam or something, they're a little less likely to fuck with you. So just keep that in mind too, people. They're a little less likely to fuck with you when you have your camera on, because they've come up with all sorts of little tricks to cover their camera. You know, how they put their arm, or how they like lean on your car, or whatever the fuck. Go watch some of those body cam videos. You'll see these cops have become experts on covering up their fucking, how they point their gun. You know, they've gotten very good at blinding you to what's going on, you know, because that's the first thing everybody wants to see, right? I want to see the body cam footage. Well, you can't. It's not that they're not going to let you not see it. It's just that their fucking arm's in the way the whole time. So now it's, reasonable doubt. Oh, did he do it? Did he not do it? Yep. If you make a rule or a regulation, it'll only take halfway smart people a little bit of time to get around that regulation. Period. Every time. Keep that in mind, People, it's in people's nature to break rules. It always has been, and it always will be. That's what people do. They break rules. Big ones, little ones, doesn't matter. And some people get off on it, they like doing it. And cops are no different. I saw this one the other day. It was called the Farmer Stop. This guy was stopped by this cop because he was in a drug neighborhood, and they said he went to this drug house, known drug house. That's another thing that pisses me off. If it's a fucking known drug house, then go bust it. Don't give me this, it's a known drug house, and keep it in business, because then you can use it as an excuse to pull people over constantly who just happen to be driving by. The known drug house was on a fucking main thoroughfare of the city, and this cop, who happened to be internal affairs from another agency, was driving through with his family after like a photo shoot. His wife's a model or something. And the cops pulled him over, and the guy wasn't having it. And the cops on their body cam were like, "Let's go fuck with him. Let's see if we can search his car." And they finally found out that he worked for internal affairs. And if you know anything about that, cops don't like internal affairs, because it's internal affairs' job to bust cops like this asshole who are being crooked. Anyway, the whole thing takes hours. They got several cop cars there. They're trying to fuck with this guy. And, the guy knows his rights, so he's standing to him. Yeah, fuck. Anyway, after the whole thing was said and done, they let the guy go. And then they started spreading rumors about the dude, about him not cooperating and being a big asshole and all this shit. Pretty ridiculous. But it just goes to show you that cops are people too. And if you piss them off and offend them, they'll go the extra mile to ruin your shit. And that's what they tried doing to this guy. And this guy he wasn't a cop. He was in the process of retiring and starting his own private security business. And this cop spreading rumors and shit was affecting this guy's business. And to this day, that town, chief of police, the cops, everything, are constantly fucking with this guy. And, the chief of police is like, I don't know what you're talking about, even though he's on record telling his officers, spread the rumor around and fuck this guy, It's just, fuck these cops. I'll be a lot more comfortable when they have motherfucking android cops walking around than human cops, honestly. Unreal. Yeah, and those cops, they didn't really get in a lot of trouble, of course, for coming up with shit and pulling this guy over on false pretenses and spreading rumors outside of the situation that affected this guy. None of them really got any kind of shit for that. So it just goes to show you right there, there is a good old boy mentality to bad cops. bad cops will back up other bad cops. You know? And if they're willing to do that to the cops, what are they gonna do to you when they pull you over, you know? Shit. Probably ruin your life too, you know? So you gotta watch that shit. That's why I'm courteous with cops. I try not to fuck with them too much. You know, yeah, I'm a human being. You might catch me on the wrong day, but I try to just get it over with as soon as possible and get on my way. That my car is full coverage insurance, you know. I don't drink and drive. I don't do any of that shit. So I don't want to give them any reason to fuck with me. And when they do fuck with me, I just want to get away and get out of it as quick as possible, you know? That's all you gotta do. Tell them what they want to hear, and then fucking leave. The thing that scares me about crooked cops like that is, you know, if they're willing to lie and cheat and steal, why wouldn't they plant some shit on you? That one cop that I remember at least got busted not too long ago in, like, somewhere down south. But he was planting methamphetamine. It was a big meth area of the country. He was planting methamphetamine on people, and his own badge cam got him busted. You know, he was hiding the meth in his, you know, his glove, you know, palm of his glove. And then when he was in the vehicle, he would kind of pull it out a little bit and then drop it. Well, his dash cam caught that, and his own dash cam, or I'm sorry, his own body cam is what fucking did him in, thank God. And you can believe that? People had gone to jail. People had gotten in all sorts of trouble. And it's like the cop got fired and all that, but he never got in any, like, legal trouble. And that pisses me off. Like, what do you mean he didn't get any legal trouble? They caught him doing this. The department got sued, you know. Just, like, couldn't believe it. So, you gotta be careful, people. They're out there, and they'll ruin your fucking shit. Take your kids, ruin your life. Any number of lame shit, you know? That's why I just respect their authority, and I tell them whatever they want to hear. Get them the